Colorado Springs police are investigating a video showing a cross burning near a mayoral campaign sign in Colorado Springs.
A racial slur painted on Yemi Mobolade's campaign is now at the center of a bias-motivated crime investigation tonight.
The video has also made its way to the Rocky Mountain NAACP.
This type of hate, this type of bigotry has to be rooted out, stamped out, and addressed. And that person should be held accountable, because the next time it could be someone's life. It's 2023. It is not 1943. This type of hate doesn't exist, and it shouldn't be tolerated at all.
A few moments later.
Tonight, with a late-breaking story in Colorado Springs, a federal indictment outlines communications between then mayoral candidate Yemi Mobolade and one of the men accused of concocting a hate crime hoax prior to the 2023 runoff election.
The court documents run through 5 separate contacts between suspect Derek Bernard and Mobolade, beginning with a Facebook message from Bernard to Mobolade 10 days before a cross was set on fire in front of a Mobolade campaign sign that had the N-word spray painted on it. According to court documents, that initial message from Bernard read, quote, "I'm mobilizing my squadron in defense and for the final push. Black Ops style, big brother, the Klan cannot be allowed to run this city again."
A few moments later.
Springs Mayor Yemi Mobolade is pushing back against allegations he helped cover up a hate crime hoax during last year's mayoral runoff election.
False claims have circulated about my involvement and have been amplified by a small group of politically motivated individuals.
Okay, so this mayor sent text messages to 3 people who committed a hate crime hoax to help him get elected. And he says he knew nothing about it and is totally innocent. Here are the details. Welcome to Colorado Springs, Colorado. Population about 500,000 souls. Now, Colorado Springs is a very, very, very conservative place. Matter of fact, they've never had a mayor who was not a Republican in the history of the town. Now, it was time to elect a new mayor in Colorado Springs. And we have an immigrant. His name is Yemi Mobolade. And he is going to run as an independent for mayor of Colorado Springs.
As a husband and father to 3 young kids, Yemi understands the challenges facing your families.
This moment for our city requires leadership.
As Colorado Springs Small Business Development Administrator,
Yemi fought for our local businesses by cutting red tape.
United faith leaders to take on our city's toughest challenges
by co-founding the nonprofit COS I Love You.
And is the only candidate with a record of bringing good jobs to our city.
Vote for a mayor who gets us.
A strong leader.
So now we have the election. There were 12 candidates running for mayor, and one candidate we need to get more than 50% of the vote to become mayor. But no one reached that threshold. So there was a runoff with the top 2 candidates.
Colorado Springs voters cast their ballots on April 4th for the first round of the mayoral elections. Out of 12 candidates, Wayne Williams and Yemi Mobolade came out on top. Neither received more than 50% of the votes, so the election went to a runoff.
Now, about 2 weeks before the election on April 13th, 2023, Yemi gets a message from a man named Derek Bernard. He wrote on Facebook, "I know it's crunch time, sir, but look, I spoke with some of my friends in other places and there's a plot amiss. I'm mobilizing my squadron in defense and for the final push. Black Ops style, big brother. The Klan cannot be allowed to run this city again." Now, about 10 days later, someone put a burning cross in front of the mayor's sign with an expletive written across the front of it. The video was shared online and with all media sources. Here's the initial news report.
We're investigating a video showing a cross burning near a mayoral campaign sign in Colorado Springs.
A racial slur painted on Yemi Mobolade's campaign is now at the center of a bias-motivated crime investigation tonight.
This video shows a cross in flames and a Yemi for Mayor sign spray painted with the N-word. The video was sent to our newsroom last night, and though we've repeatedly reached out to the person who sent it to figure out the origination of the video, they haven't responded to our multiple emails.
The local NAACP even got involved, calling this a hate crime, and said police needed to investigate it because, again, the Klan was still in Colorado Springs.
The video has also made its way to the Rocky Mountain NAACP.
This type of hate, this type of bigotry has to be rooted out, stamped out, and addressed. And that person should be held accountable, because the next time it could be someone's life.
Now, as you see, everybody's calling for a hate crime investigation, so the police did a hate crime investigation. So now, with this cross burning in the news and sympathy going toward the independent candidate, Yemi was able to win and become mayor. Here's MSNBC celebrating his win for diversity.
Yemi Mobolade is a Nigerian immigrant and a businessman who first moved to the United States 27 years ago as an international student. He's the first elected black mayor of Colorado Springs after defeating former Colorado Republican Secretary of State Wayne Williams with 57.5% of the vote. It was truly a political earthquake. Colorado Springs had never elected a non-Republican candidate for mayor. Wayne Williams is a normal Republican, though. He didn't support election denialism, which likely cost him Republican votes in a changing electorate in Colorado Springs. Wayne Williams conceded to Yemi Mobolade and congratulated him on an excellent campaign, something rare to see in the era of election denialism. Here's some of what Yemi Mobolade said to voters in his victory speech.
We stand on the mountain of a new era in our city's history. Yes, Colorado Springs will become an inclusive, culturally rich, economically prosperous, safe, and vibrant city on a hill that shines brightly. To anyone who doubts that politics can be disrupted, reformed, and transformed into an hopeful experience, tonight is for you.
So as you can see, Yemi becomes Mayor Yemi, and he is riding high. He's the first non-Republican elected to mayor in Colorado Springs. Then something weird happens. Remember Derek Bernard, the person who had sent the Facebook message to Yemi previously? Well, he was arrested for murder.
First, we're going to begin with an 11 breaking news alert tonight. And two suspects, the two people that you see in this photo back here, are in custody nearly 5 years after a man was shot and killed in Colorado Springs.
35-year-old Derek Bernard and 26-year-old Ashishan Matthews were arrested earlier this month in connection to the 2019 death of William Underwood, an aspiring rap artist. That's according to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. Authorities say they were called to a neighborhood in Cimarron Hills in northeast Colorado Springs after reports of gunshots. That's when Underwood's body was discovered on the sidewalk. Both Bernard and Matthews face charges related to first-degree murder, and both men are now booked in the El Paso County Jail.
Now, after Bernard was arrested, police got subpoenas to look through Bernard's phones and personal belongings. And they found that Bernard was one of the people who actually committed the hate crime against Yemi.
Thanks, Matt. Time now. It is 6:02 in our top story this hour. 3 people in the Springs are indicted on federal charges related to a hate crime hoax, which did happen during the 2023 mayoral election.
The U.S. Attorney's Office of Colorado says they staged a burning cross in front of a political sign for black candidate Yemi Mobolade. Fox 21's Abby Burke reports.
Derek Bernard Jr., Ashley Danielle Blackcloud, and Deanna Crystal West are accused of stoking racial tensions in the heart of an election season. Prosecutors say the three worked together to place a wooden cross in front of a campaign sign for future mayor of Colorado Springs, Yemi Mobolade. Court documents say they wrote a slur on the sign and then set the cross on fire and recorded a short video. The three then allegedly spread false information about the event through an email from an anonymous source to various news outlets and civic organizations. Mobolade, who is the first black elected mayor of Colorado Springs, had this to say back in 2023 when the video surfaced.
I have to say I was very disappointed. It was hurtful, and we don't know if the content is real or not. I know that's under further investigation. But here's the thing, it's not the Colorado Springs that I know the city to be. And so we refuse to give that content any more energy than it deserves.
So now people were saying, hey, this is over. They caught the bad guys. It was a hoax, thank God. But more fallout came because while they were doing this particular plot, they were in communication with Mayor Yemi. Now, before we get into any more craziness, here's a word from our sponsor, Black Forest Supplements. Now, one thing most Americans love is chocolate. Now, inside chocolate, you have what's known as cocoa flavanols. Now, as you know, I'm Nate the lawyer, not Nate the doctor, but here is a doctor, Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee, and he's going to tell you the benefits of cocoa flavanol.
So, studies have been done to show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees in a beehive in your bloodstream, and they go out and they find wherever it needs to be repaired. Now, how do we know this actually functions, works in people? Well, clinical studies have been done with high flavanol cocoa to show that in like men who are in their 60s with heart disease, they could actually just have 2 cups of dark chocolate hot cocoa a day for a month. Yeah. And they doubled the amount of stem cells in their bloodstream, and their circulation improved measurably. A study called the Cosmos study that was completed recently that showed that eating high flavanol cocoa decreases the risk of cardiovascular death.
So as you heard, dark chocolate is the answer, but the flavanols get destroyed in the process that turns the cocoa into candy. Now, this is where Black Forest supplements come in. They've made a high flavanol cocoa powder that keeps all the powerful components intact. Now, I've worked out a deal with my people at Black Forest Supplements to hook you up with 40% off for the next 48 hours. Now, I've made it super easy for you. Hit the link in the description, hit the link in the pinned comment, or go to blackforestsupplements.com/Nate to get the deal. Now, thanks again to Black Forest Supplements. Back to the video.
Tonight, with a late-breaking story in Colorado Springs, a federal indictment outlines communications between then-mayoral candidate Yemi Mobolade and one of the men accused of concocting a hate crime hoax prior to the 2023 runoff election.
The court documents run through 5 separate contacts between suspect Derek Bernard and Mobolade, beginning with a Facebook message from Bernard to Mobolade 10 days before a cross was set on fire in front of a Mobolade campaign sign that had the N-word spray painted on it. According to court documents, that initial message from Bernard read, quote, "I'm mobilizing my squadron in defense and for the final push. Black Ops style, big brother, the Klan cannot be allowed to run this city again."
Bernard then texted Mobolade on April 23rd in response to a message about needing support to get to the finish line. A 5-minute phone call was also shared prior to the election. A final text from Bernard to Mobolade was also documented the day of the May 16th election.
So Yemi is texting. He's talking to him on the phone. They're talking about Black Ops situations here. So you would think Mayor Yemi would be in some problems, but guess what? The Biden administration said no. We're not going to charge Mayor Yemi with anything. He's an innocent man.
We asked the mayor's office again for an interview today on the matter. Instead, we were given this statement reading, "My family and I are victims of a hate crime allegedly committed by 3 suspects against our city. I had no knowledge, warning, or involvement in this reprehensible act. It's unfortunately not a new trend that politically motivated websites will weigh in with no regard for accuracy or truth and are interested only in sensationalism and scandal. I fully cooperated in the investigation, and it is important that the judicial process is followed to allow for a successful prosecution that brings justice for our community." We have all of these statements and input from those elected officials.
Now, just to be clear, Mayor Yemi is innocent of anything. He's not been charged. He's not been alleged. He right now is the victim. But it's just very, very, very curious that he had all these interactions with this guy who happened to be the mastermind behind this plot. Calling the guy, talking to the guy day of, day after, before. They seem to know each other, especially being on the phone with the guy for 5 minutes. Now, Bernard is serving a life sentence for the murder. The other 2 women are in custody awaiting trial. One just actually pleaded guilty to the whole scheme.
A woman tied to a hate crime hoax involving the Colorado Springs mayor has pleaded guilty to federal charges. We've told you about this story before. An apparent burning cross with a racial slur were seen in Colorado Springs back in April of 2023. This happened when now Mayor Yemi Mobolade was campaigning. Since then, federal investigators have accused 3 suspects of staging the scene, alleging it was done to boost attention around Mobolade's campaign. Today, one of those suspects, 38-year-old Deanna West, and just to be clear, that's not who's pictured here on your screen, that's another suspect. But 38-year-old Deanna West pleaded guilty to 1 count of maliciously conveying false information about a threat by means of fire. West is set to be sentenced in June. The 2 other suspects, Derek Bernard Jr., that's shown here, and Ashley Blackcloud, they're both awaiting trial. Mayor Mobolade has denied any involvement in planning the so-called hoax.
So, my question to you, do you think the mayor knew? Like, really? kind of believe the mayor knew. I think he's just playing games. It'd just be one hell of a coincidence that he's calling this guy, he's talking to this guy, hey, got a black ops plan going down, and now you can just raise your hands up and say, I didn't know anything about it. I'm just some clueless man who just happened to benefit from all these other people's crimes. So let me know how you feel in the comment section, and don't forget, like, share, subscribe. I say subscribe all the time. 80% of the people who watch the channel don't subscribe. I don't know, but you watch every video, so I'd rather you watch than subscribe. But if you do subscribe, it does help the algorithm. So with that being said, I'm Nate the Lawyer, and I'm out. Peace.